Heartwarming rescue. Homeless girl saves dying man. Unknowingly billionaire. What happened next? The streets of New York City were alive with the sounds of honking horns and chatter, a bustling symphony of life. Among the masses, a little girl weaved through the throngs, her tattered clothes barely keeping out the biting cold. 12-year-old Lily had learned to navigate the urban labyrinth with a keen instinct. Scavenging for leftovers at food trucks and snatching glances at warm, bustling restaurants, Lily wore a brave face, though inside, her heart was heavy with dreams unfulfilled. That chilly evening, as dusk painted the sky in layers of gray and orange, Lily searched for a corner to curl up for the night when she noticed an elderly man slumped on a park bench, his face a mask of worry. Jack, his name barely whispered from the shadows, had chosen this spot to escape his gilded cage of wealth, but the burden of his decisions weighed on him heavily. Lily's instincts kicked in, and with fierce compassion igniting her spirit, she approached him. "Sir, are you okay?" she asked, her voice a soft echo against the cold wind. He looked up, eyes glazed with pain. "No, I think I need help," he gasped. Panic seized Lily's heart. "Please wait here." She sprinted toward a couple passing by. "Can you help him?" "Yes, he is not feeling well." The couple paused, their puzzled looks shifting to concern. They called the authorities as Lily raced back, her heart pounding fiercely in her chest. "Stay with me, okay?" she whispered, her small hand resting on his knotted fingers. Against the chill of the air, she felt a warmth, a flicker of hope in their fraught moment. What happened next? Emergency lights lit up the park, illuminating the stark realities of their lives. Jack had indeed been on the brink of death, and thanks to Lily's intervention, he was whisked away to receive care. The girl who lived on scraps had saved the life of a man whose riches could be saved him many times over. Over the days that followed, Jack recovered. With an extravagant life behind him, he found unexpected solace in witnessing Lily navigate the city with incredulous strength. She had shown him a world he had forgotten, filled with beautiful moments of kindness, despite the harsh backdrops of poverty. Lily's resourcefulness and tenacity sparked something in him that was long buried. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As Lily's bond with Jack deepened, they began to challenge their disparate worlds. The burdens of Jack's past slowly revealing the ugly truths behind wealth, while Lily sought to reconnect with her estranged family. Each conversation sparked tension and hope like a candle flickering in the dark, illuminating pathways neither had anticipated. Would Jack's new insights as a mentor help him break through the burdens of his past? Would Lily discover that healing could come from the unlikeliest of places? In a world that often failed to see them, Lily and Jack stood at the crossover of fate, fighting against the looming shadows of misunderstanding. The juxtaposition of their lives, riches versus struggle, hope versus despair, bound them together, whispering promises of change and shared purpose. Would their journey bind them closer, or tear apart the fragile connection they had forged? Only time would tell. As the city breathed and pulsed around them, a relentless tide of possibility and challenge. Lily had always felt alone in the crowded streets of New York City, but Jack changed that. They met almost every day after his recovery. He would sit on the same park bench, notebook in hand, trying to capture the world he had neglected for so long. And there she was, his unexpected muse, spunky and fearless, chasing after dreams in a vast, indifferent city. One afternoon, Jack noticed the shadows under Lily's eyes, the marks of too many nights curled up in parks instead of a warm bed. He felt a heavy tug in his chest. "Kiddo, do you want to eat somewhere nice today?" "Like where?" Lily asked, her voice dancing between surprise and hope. "Like that Italian place on the corner, with the red checkered tablecloths." Her eyes lit up. "You mean with the garlic bread?" Jack laughed, a sound he hadn't heard from himself in years. "Yeah, that place. They crossed the street together, the air tinged with the aroma of garlic and simmering tomato sauce. As they entered, the warmth of the restaurant enveloped them, a stark contrast to the chill outside. Jack felt the corners of his heart soften. For the first time in a long while, he wanted to share his world with someone else. As they sat, Jack ordered various dishes, each one a surprise for Lily, who could hardly keep her excitement contained. "I never had food like this before," she gushed, her joy infectious. Watching her devour a plate of spaghetti, Jack was filled with a strange sense of peace. It was more than mere food. It was nurturing her spirit, taking part in her happiness. His mind drifted back to those shadowy days, battling anxieties and regrets. The warmth of the restaurant was nothing compared to the warmth growing in his heart. A connection reached beyond their differences. For that moment, they were just two people enjoying a meal, free from judgment and expectations. "You know," Lily said between bites, "I always dreamed of having a big family, a place to call home again." Her voice faded slightly, like a whisper carried away by the breeze. "But sometimes it feels impossible." Jack paused, his own heart heavy with memories of lost connections. "Sometimes it does feel that way. But dreams, they can lead you in unexpected directions." After finishing dessert, they wandered through the bustling streets, enveloped in the city's vibrant energy. Musicians played nearby, their melodies weaving through the air like threads of hope. As they passed a bookstore, Jack caught sight of the glass door. "Lily, what do you think about stories? Do you like them?" "Yeah," she replied, "they take you places you can't really go." He pointed at a brightly colored children's book in the window. "Let us take a look inside." The store was cramped but cozy. Bookshelves reached the ceiling, bursting with tales of magic, adventure, and dreams. They browsed, sharing bits of stories that resonated with them. Timidly, Lily suggested her favorite, a story about a girl who found a family against all odds. That's when it dawned on Jack. "What if we start our own story together?" he said, voice charged with excitement. For the first time, Lily looked uncertain. "What do you mean?" "Let us write our journey, Lily. Your family story, my redemption, all wrapped up in the tapestry of this city. We can show it to the world." Lily's eyes widened. "But what if no one wants to read it?" "Maybe they will. But more importantly, we'll create something beautiful. Together." Tears glistened in her eyes as she nodded. This was a new path, one filled with potential. He reached out and squeezed her hand. They didn't know where this journey would lead, but together, they could face whatever came next. As they left the bookstore, the city seemed to shimmer with promise. Their story had just begun. What would it reveal, and who would it touch? The following week was a whirlwind of inspiration for both Jack and Lily. They decided to meet every day at the park, not just as friends but as co-authors of their tumultuous journey. They brought their notebooks and shared ideas, laughter flowing easily between them. Each story they wrote felt like a puzzle piece fitting into a larger picture, their connection deepening with every word. One bright morning, they sat under their favorite tree. Jack cast a glance around, taking in the rhythm of the park. "Let us base our story on the seasons," he suggested, jotting down ideas. "Winter could be about loneliness, how it feels to be lost in the cold, and spring can represent hope and new beginnings." Lily's eyes sparkled. "Can we make summer all about adventure, like visiting the beach and building castles?" She sketched a tiny sandcastle in her notebook, her smile infectious. "Absolutely. And autumn can symbolize change," Jack added. "As the leaves fall, they leave space for new growth." As they brainstormed, Lily couldn't shake the feeling that their story was about so much more than just a creative outlet. It was about healing, about confronting their fears and dreams. She found herself spilling tales of times being out on the streets, how she survived, hoping one day to impact someone else's life. Jack listened intently, his heart aching for her. "You're so brave, Lily," he said quietly. "You've seen darkness but still chased the light. Maybe that's what makes me who I am." "I wouldn't change anything," she replied, her voice steady but soft. "But sometimes, I wish I knew how to dream without feeling scared." "We can learn together," Jack encouraged. "This story is our chance." They spent hours crafting their characters, building their world on the pages. Jack wrote about a girl who rose from nothing to find a family, while Lily created a character based on Jack himself, who, after losing everything, found joy through newfound connections. It was cathartic and exhilarating. But as they wrote, the reality of the outside world crept in. With every meeting, Jack noticed Lily's struggles seeping back into her spirit. Homelessness was a constant shadow, and it whispered doubts he could see in the frown lines forming near her mouth. One day, as they settled into their creative space, Jack decided it was time to address the elephant in the room. "Lily, I've been thinking, what if we took a small leap? You could stay with me for a while, maybe help each other out?" She looked up, hesitation flickering in her eyes. "But what if it changes everything? What if I ruin it?" "That won't happen," he reassured her, reaching out to touch her hand. "You're not ruining anything. You're adding a new chapter to our story." Her breath hitched. She had never allowed herself to hope for shelter or comfort from someone else. Scared her. "But what if I'm not enough?" she whispered. Jack's heart raced at her vulnerability. "You're more than enough, Lily. We're friends. We can work through anything together." As they sat in the park, emotions swirling like the autumn leaves falling around them, she felt a mixture of fear and hope battling inside. Could she risk it all for a chance at something more secure? A life alongside someone who cared. The sun dipped lower, casting a warm glow around them, igniting a flicker of resolve in her heart. "Okay," she exhaled, voice trembling. "I'll think about it." They locked eyes, a moment charged with mutual understanding. The weight of their stories had the power to change everything. But little did they know, outside the cozy park walls, the world also had surprises waiting for them. Jack didn't realize, as he squeezed her hand tighter, that the past he thought he had buried was about to catch up with him, leading to a revelation that could shatter everything they had built. What secrets would the past unveil, and how would it impact their newfound path? The following day, the sun poured in through Jack's window, warming the small room. He was restless, lying in bed with thoughts racing. Every moment felt heavy with the weight of his offer to Lily. Was it too much? What if she changed her mind? The fear of not being enough loomed over him as he slipped out of tea breakfast. He found himself staring at a half-eaten piece of toast, anxiety constricting his stomach. He needed to talk to Lily again. He wanted this for both of them. But deep down, he worried a tiny voice in his head whispered that inviting her into his life might expose his own insecurities. Later that morning, he made his way to the park, heart fluttering wildly with both hope and fear. When he spotted Lily, she was sitting on their favorite bench, sketching in her notebook. She looked peaceful, the light dancing on her hair like strands of gold. "Hey," he greeted, a smile breaking through his nerves. "Hi, Jack," she replied, her face lighting up. She closed her notebook and looked up at him expectantly. "What's on your mind?" He hesitated, feeling the weight of the moment. "I was thinking about yesterday," he started, "and how it could be a real chance for us." She bit her lip. Uncertainty shadowed her features. "I don't want to make things awkward. If I stay, what if I mess it up?" Jack stepped closer, sensing the gravity of their conversation. "Look, I don't have all the answers, but I believe we can help each other. You deserve more than just surviving." Her eyes held a flicker of something hope, maybe fear. "We can write our story together. You're not just some stray word on a page. You're a whole chapter waiting to be written." Lily's breath caught. "What if I fail? Then we'll rewrite it," he said, a warmth spreading through him as conviction seized his voice. "You're stronger than you realize. Let us build something better together." She hesitated, her heart battling against her mind. There was a crackling tension in the air, and as the leaves swirled lazily to the ground, she knew this was a moment of truth. "Okay," she finally said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I want to try just for a little while." A smile broke across Jack's face, and relief washed over him. "I'll make sure you feel at home." But their moment of triumph lingered in the air, uncertain. Just then, a loud roar echoed down the street. Jack's smile faltered as he turned, the sound growing closer. A sleek car screeched to a halt in front of the park. The door swung open, and a man in a sharp suit jumped out, panic etched on his face. "Something else happened. We need help," he shouted, rushing towards them. Jack's chest tightened at the urgency. Lily's heart raced as she exchanged glances with Jack. "Should we see?" she asked, nervous but curious. Jack nodded, and they hurried toward the commotion, where a small crowd was gathering. As they neared, they spotted a figure lying on the pavement, a man, unresponsive and pale. Jack knelt down, adrenaline flooding through him. "What happened?" "He collapsed," the suited man exclaimed, desperation lacing his words. "He needs help now." Without thinking, Jack leaned closer, instinct driving him forward. Through the chaos, he caught a glimpse of the man's face and froze in shock. Lily felt the weight of his tension and turned to him. "Jack, what is it?" He didn't respond, the truth lunging toward him, this face. The man he had not seen in years, but never forgotten. The unraveling of the past was just beginning, and as he opened his mouth to speak, everything they had talked about started to slip away, replaced by a sense of foreboding. What happened next would define them both, twisting their paths together even more closely. But the question loomed. Was this man truly connected to Jack's troubled history? Or was it just a coincidence that would change everything they were trying to build? Jack fought against the wave of memories crashing over him. The face lying before him belonged to Daniel, his estranged brother. The last time he had seen him, their relationship had been shattered by betrayal and bitterness. He had never expected to lay eyes on him again, especially not like this. Panic surged through him. What if it was too late? "Jack?" Lily's voice broke through his thoughts, laced with concern. He tore his gaze away from Daniel's unresponsive figure to find Lily looking at him, her brow furrowed and eyes wide. She reached out, placing a hand on his arm, grounding him. "We need to call for help," she urged, glancing at the crowd that had gathered, all wearing expressions of shock and worry. Jack nodded, trying to shake off the sense of dread that had settled in his stomach as he scrambled for his phone. A sense of urgency propelled him forward. "Don't just stand there," he shouted at the suited man, still hovering unstably near them. "Get someone to help, right?" "I'm on it." The man nodded, rushing off to find help. Jack knelt beside Daniel, steadying his breath. Warmth spread from the ground up through his knees, a pulse of life's urgency beneath him. Lifeless as his brother appeared, Jack felt a flicker of hope. He had to try. His emotions roiled as he remembered the good times, the laughter, the warmth of brotherhood before everything had gone so wrong. "Daniel," he murmured, desperation creeping into his voice. "Come on, wake up. We can fix this." He pressed a hand to his brother's shoulder, feeling the warmth of humanity beneath his fingers. "Do something," Lily urged, her voice tight with fear. "What can we do?" "CPR," Jack managed to reply, recalling the training he had pushed to the back of his mind years ago. With a shaky breath, he positioned his hands on Daniel's chest, counting his presses, praying the memories would come flooding back. Lily watched intently, holding her breath with every push he administered. "You've got this, Jack," she encouraged, and the strength in her voice struck something deep within him. This wasn't just about Daniel anymore. This was about 2 years lost to anger, misunderstandings, and helplessness. With each pump, Jack felt time collapse as he focused solely on the rhythm, his heart pounding in unison with the hope of renewal. Suddenly, a gurgling sound escaped Daniel's lips, and Jack froze, eyes wide, a moment suspended in fragile hope. "Keep going," Lily shouted, and with renewed determination, Jack pressed on, each movement fueled by their shared fear, their shoulders touching like anchors in a storm. Then the world around them shifted. A collective gasp echoed from the crowd as Daniel's eyes fluttered open, momentarily locking with Jack's gaze. "What?" Daniel croaked, confusion written on his face as he struggled to comprehend where he was. "Jack!" Lily exclaimed, her voice trembling with a mix of hope and relief. The connection they had built in a few short hours now felt frail, as if it could shatter at any moment. Jack couldn't help but wonder what happened next. Would this be the moment that mended years of rift between him and Daniel, or would it unravel everything they had just begun to build? And in the thickening silence, the wider implications of Daniel's identity loomed larger than ever. Jack hadn't considered what it truly meant that his life was intertwined with a man he had thought was lost. The weight of the moment pressed on him. Can I trust him? Jack thought, heart racing with apprehension. In this instant, he faced a choice that could redefine everything: the chance to heal or a plunge back into turmoil. The air was thick with possibility, and Jack's mind reeled at the thought of what lay ahead. As emergency responders arrived, Jack locked eyes with Lily, each of them feeling the gravity of the uncertainty hanging between them. This was only the beginning of a story that would pull them deeper into the unknown. What would they discover about each other and about themselves when the dust settled? The crowd tightened around them, murmurs rippling through as Daniel's gaze found Jack's. For a fleeting moment, the years of estrangement faded. Stripped to their raw core, they were just brothers again, bewildered by the distance that had come to define them. Jack? Daniel's voice barely rose above a whisper, but it was a spark of life, flickering at first. Jack's heart surged. He felt his fingers tighten instinctively around Daniel's shoulder, as if hoping to pull him back to solid ground. Yeah, it's me. We're here. You're safe, Jack replied, his voice thick with emotion. He couldn't tell if Daniel recognized the fear that hung around them like a shroud. Would he see the guilt Jack wore like armor? I thought I lost you, Daniel murmured, his brows knitting in confusion. Not yet, Jack said, shaking his head. The rush of sirens grew louder as the paramedics maneuvered their way through the onlookers. Jack squeezed Daniel's shoulder, his heart racing as the reality of the moment outpaced his mind. Then, the paramedics were there, moving with practiced efficiency. Jack stepped back, feeling the tension ease in knowing professional hands were taking over. He felt some relief but also dread. What if the rescue was not just for Daniel's body, but for something deeper that had been buried beneath years of resentment and anger? Is he going to be all right? Lily asked, urgency and worry knitting her brow as she leaned closer to Jack. Jack shrugged slightly, unsure how to respond. I hope so, he said, feeling his throat constrict. He has to be. But doubt gnawed at him. They had so much to unpack, so much that had split them apart. Jack! A voice pulled him from his spiraling thoughts. It was one of the paramedics, a woman with kind eyes. We need to take him in. Are you family? Family. The word landed heavily between them. Jack stood frozen. Daniel looked vulnerable, lying there among strangers. That word held so much weight, some days feeling like a lifetime ago. Yes, Jack found his voice. Yes, my brother. And it felt like a lifeline to reach out and hold on to, however fragile it felt at that moment. As they carefully lifted Daniel onto the stretcher, Jack's mind spun. His heart thumped out a rhythm of worry. What did he actually know about Daniel's life since their last falling out? Jack had been too angry, too proud to reach out. As the paramedics worked swiftly, Jack caught Lily's anxious expression. What's going on, Jack? She pressed gently. Daniel, he isn't just my brother. He's more complicated than that. Complicated how? Lily pushed, her voice steady, a calming force against the storm swirling inside him. Jack hesitated, searching for clarity in the chaos. He made some choices that hurt us both. I thought I understood what he'd become since then. But standing here, I don't know. I just wanted to protect what was left. Lily stepped closer, her hand brushing against his arm. A silent reminder that they were in this together. You can't carry that alone. Not now. Finally, they loaded Daniel into the ambulance. Jack and Lily clambered in, the doors closing behind them, a finality that sent apprehension racing through Jack's veins. As the ambulance jolted to life, Daniel stirred again. Jack, are we? But the words trailed off as pain flickered across his features. Stay with me, Daniel, Jack urged. In his heart, he grappled with the thorny question. Would this be an opportunity for healing, or would the crash of old wounds drown them all over again? The sirens wailed, each note striking a chord of urgency. Jack felt the gravity of their shared past pressing down. He needed to be ready to confront the demons that had set them apart for so long. "Daniel," he whispered, "when we get through this we need to talk." But would Daniel be willing to share the truth? To peel back layers that had coated their relationship in dust? The answer loomed in the air, close and electric. As the lights of the city danced past the windows, Jack's mind drifted to the shadows of uncertainty. Would they find a way back to each other, or would they get lost in the dark again? The ambulance jostled around them, each bump a disorienting reminder of the urgency. Jack's eyes were glued to Daniel, who lay pale and trembling. Sweat beaded on Daniel's forehead, glistening under the harsh fluorescent lights. "Hang in there, all right?" Jack whispered, struggling to keep his voice steady. The surge of old memories washing over him like a wave. Childhood nights spent in the same room. Laughter mixed with bickering. Shared birthdays somehow turned into shared regrets. Jack Daniel's voice barely broke free, his eyes flickering. "I'm sorry." The apology hung in the air, heavy with years of buried hurt. "It's okay. We'll figure this out," Jack replied, feeling the weight of those words. All the things he had wanted to say were trapped inside him like stones in his throat. He wanted to shake off the past and just look forward. Yet the ghosts loomed larger than ever. Lily moved closer, her hand brushing against Jack's arm again. "You two have a lot to work through, don't you?" Her eyes reflected a mix of concern and understanding. "What if it's too late?" Jack murmured, not taking his eyes off Daniel. The thought terrified him. What if the chance for healing slipped through their fingers like sand? Just like everything else? "Not if you try," Lily insisted, her voice firm. "You can still reach him. It's not over." The sirens blared, and Jack forced himself to breathe, taking in the sterile scent of antiseptics and the rhythmic beeping of the heart monitor. He clung to the faint glimmer of hope. If the ambulance could bring Daniel back to life, maybe it could do the same for their fractured relationship. As they sped through the city, each flicker of the passing lights cast flashes of memories in Jack's mind. Daniel at their mother's birthday, his mischievous smile. Jack remembered holding their first trophy together. Their triumphant cheers echoed in his heart. But those smiles were shadowed by the scene that had driven them apart. The fight that sent Daniel spiraling and left Jack feeling abandoned and betrayed. "Jack, please." Daniel's voice broke through again, stronger this time, but his eyes were filled with pain. "I need you. You have me," Jack said, swallowing hard against the lump in his throat. "I won't leave you again." The ambulance rolled to a stop, and the back doors swung open. The bright lights of the hospital entrance flooded in, harsh and glaring. Two nurses rushed in, ready to transfer Daniel. Jack held his breath, knowing this was it. The moment when everything could shift either toward healing or despair. Inside, busy doctors and nurses buzzed around, voices raised in urgency as they hurried to stabilize Daniel. Jack watched, his heart pounding in his chest. He felt the emotions brim up in him: fear, regret, longing, all woven together like a tapestry that had been frayed at the edges. "What if he never forgives me?" Jack whispered to Lily as they stood outside the room, helpless. "Then make him understand," Lily replied, her voice resolute. "You deserve to have those conversations. You can't change the past, but you can change the future." Jack nodded slowly, the weight of her words a small flame of resolve igniting within him. They stood at the threshold, silence enveloping them as they both focused on the muffled chaos of medical jargon from behind the closed door. Time dragged, stretching the air tight around them until it felt impossibly thin. Just then, the door swung open. A doctor stepped out, his face a mask of focus and urgency. "Family?" he called out, scanning the waiting room for someone to respond. Jack's heart skipped. This was the moment they had both feared and hoped for. He stepped forward, Lily at his side, both of them poised for whatever news awaited them. "Your brother is stable, but he is going to need support," the doctor said, and Jack could barely breathe. Jack exchanged a glance with Lily, sharing a surge of relief, but uncertainty still gnawed at him. How would Daniel cope once he was conscious? Would the conversation they both needed to have be too painful to bear? With the doctor leading them back to the room, Jack couldn't shake off the feeling of dread mixed with anticipation. The chance for a reunion was finally here, but at what cost? Would they be able to breach the chasm of silence that had grown between them? As they stepped into the room, Jack felt his heart race. Daniel lay there, a strip of light revealing the worry lines creased on his forehead. Would this be a moment of healing, or would the years pull them further apart? He couldn't help but wonder, as they approached the bed, what truth awaited them in the silence that thrummed between brothers. The room was sterile, filled with the sharp scent of antiseptics that hung in the air like an unwanted memory. Jack's heart pounded as he drew closer to Daniel, anxiously scanning his brother's face for any sign of recognition. The machines whirred and beeped, and Jack felt the weight of each pulse in the air. Daniel looked fragile, his breath shallow but steady. Jack fought against the rush of emotions that clashed like waves. Years of silence screamed in his mind. Jack took a step closer, the moment wrapping around them like an unbreakable bond. "Hey, Dan," Jack whispered, his voice trembling. "It's me. I'm here." Daniel stirred slightly, his eyes fluttering open. The light caught the edge of Daniel's gaze, revealing fear mingled with confusion. "Jack," he breathed, a ghost of a smile breaking through his pain. The way he said Jack felt like old homecoming. "Yeah, I'm right here," Jack said, fighting back the urge to weep. I thought I lost you." Daniel's voice cracked, as if dredging up memories from a past that had nearly broken them both. "No way. You're stuck with me." Jack laughed softly, trying to lighten the heavy atmosphere. Humor felt out of place yet essential, like a lifeline thrown across turbulent water. Lily stood back, observing, her presence steady as she supported the two brothers' reunion. Jack noticed her unwavering strength, feeling gratitude swell within him. She had believed in them when he had almost lost faith. "Daniel," Jack said, his voice dropping to a more serious tone, "I need to talk to you about everything about us after this." Daniel's eyes glistened with unshed tears, and he nodded imperceptibly, but the heaviness returned. "I don't know if I can face it, Jack. We have to try. Please just give me a chance." Jack reached out, lightly brushing Daniel's arm, a gesture meant to convey love and solidarity. In that small contact, a flicker of connection ignited between them. But even as they shared this moment, a new fear settled over Jack. "It was my fault you ended up here. I should have stopped the fight. I should have been there for you." "Stop," Daniel interrupted, the pain in his voice sharp. "I wanted to prove I could do it alone. But I failed." The silence hung thick and heavy. Jack's stomach knotted as he realized the demon of pride had held them captive for years. There was a truth he didn't want to face but needed to, for both of them. Lily glanced at Jack, a silent encouragement passing between them. He straightened, drawing in a shaky breath. "Daniel, no one has to be alone anymore. Look at us. We can face anything together, but we need to talk. We need to let it all out." Daniel's eyes searched Jack's. Vulnerability reflected back at him. "What if I can't forgive you?" Jack swallowed hard, the reality of the past surfacing like a wave crashing over him. "Then let us figure out how to get there. Together." With a nod, Daniel's face relaxed, the tension slightly easing. They were still tangled and hurt, but that glimmer of hope began to push through. The door creaked open again, a nurse stepping in as if time had paused outside. "Sorry to intrude," she said, catching the intensity of their moment. "Just checking vitals." "Go ahead," Jack replied, stepping back to give her space but keeping his eyes glued to Daniel. As the nurse moved around, Jack felt anxiety creeping back in. What if Daniel never felt ready to confront their history? What if this moment was just a fleeting flicker of hope that would fade away, leaving them in shadows once again? He caught Daniel's gaze, which held a mixture of fear and something else, determination. "Perhaps?" Jack's heart surged in his chest. "We'll find our way, won't we?" he asked, desperation clinging to his words. Daniel met his gaze, a faint light igniting in his eyes. "Yeah, I think I want to." Just then, the nurse finished her checks and stepped to the side, but the air felt heavier somehow, thick with unspoken words. The room echoed with their emotions, a palpable tension that both terrified and excited Jack. Outside, the city buzzed with life, unaware of the small storm brewing between these two brothers. Jack knew the conversations needed to come, the weight of unshared stories threatening to drown them. But as Lily quietly placed a hand on his shoulder, Jack realized that maybe, just maybe, this was the start. The beginning of a new chapter, a chance to rewrite their story. He took a deep breath, steeling himself for what lay ahead. Would they manage to uncover the healing words that could mend the years of hurt? As they sat together in that room, the question hung in the air. What truths would surface when the silence finally broke? Jack watched the nurse leave, each footstep sounding like a countdown echoing in his mind. He turned back to Daniel, who was struggling to hold onto the moment, expressions flitting across his face like shadows. Jack felt a lump in his throat. "Hey," he whispered, reaching out again. "I know it's a lot, but I'm not going anywhere. We've got this." Daniel nodded, a flicker of something resilient sparking in his eyes. Jack's heart pounded, a glimmer of hope igniting deep within him. This wasn't just about the hospital room anymore. It was about what lay beyond the walls, the real world, and all the mistakes, regrets, and memories that clung to them. Jack Daniel's voice softened, almost breaking. "You can't fix everything. I thought if I fought alone, I'd prove I was strong enough." Jack wanted to shake his head, to insist that strength wasn't measured by isolation but by connection. "None of that matters anymore," he said firmly. "What counts is what we do next. You don't have to bear this alone anymore, no matter how tough it feels right now." The tension in Daniel's shoulders eased just a fraction, and Jack felt the shift. Perhaps vulnerability was the first step back. "Okay," Daniel murmured hesitantly. "But if we're doing this, we've got to be honest. I don't want half-truths. No more secrets." "Deal," Jack replied, relieved. They could carve out a new path together. "What do you need to say?" Daniel closed his eyes for a moment, as if wrestling with thoughts too profound for words. The fight wasn't just about strength, it was all the years of not feeling good enough. "I wanted you to see I've changed, that I could handle my life." The room felt charged, every heartbeat resonating like a drum. "You are enough, Dan. You always have been," Jack reassured, hoping his words would sink deep into the scars of Daniel's heart. "It was never about proving yourself, it was about us. I thought I lost you for good this time," Daniel's voice cracked, "and it tore me apart." Jack closed the distance between them, squeezing Daniel's hand. "You didn't lose me. I'm here, and I'm not going anywhere. We can face this together, every ugly bit." The weight of Daniel's fear melted into their shared vulnerability, and Jack felt as if the air shifted again. Lily watched, her presence grounding like a beacon of hope. Jack could see it in her eyes too. The potential for healing. As they continued their fragile conversation, the nurse returned, interrupting with clinical efficiency. She didn't acknowledge the quiet storm between the brothers, moving with practiced ease. "Everything looks stable," she reported. "I'll give you some time." With that, she stepped out again, leaving an electric silence behind. Daniel turned to Jack, an unreadable expression taking root. "Can we promise something?" Jack nodded, holding his breath. "Anything. Let us promise to listen. Not just to each other, but to what we don't say. To the things that got us here." "Absolutely," Jack replied, feeling that promise resonate like a drumbeat in his chest. But as he looked into Daniel's eyes, Jack wondered if he was brave enough to face those unsaid words himself. All the guilt and fear that had mired their past, it was a daunting weight to bear. "Then we face the silence, right?" Daniel said, as if reading Jack's thoughts. "Right," Jack confirmed, bracing himself for that daunting journey ahead. The nurse had left the door slightly ajar. Out in the hallway, voices murmured, distant yet filled with life. Jack stood on the cusp of a revelation. Might this be the moment they had both secretly longed for? The first step toward unearthing the truths that lingered like ghosts. And just as Jack began to gather the courage to venture further down that road, a shadow flickered in the doorway. Lily leaned in, a knowing smile that hinted at her deeper understanding of their struggles. "Can I get you guys anything?" she asked, and Jack realized the world hadn't stopped. Life continued beyond this room, insisting they step beyond their pain together. Looking back at Daniel, Jack felt warmth spread within him. They could redirect their story, but only if they chose to engage with it fully. So many questions lingered in the air, waiting to be explored. "Let us do this together," Jack said quietly to Daniel, an unbreakable vow. But as that new chapter loomed ever closer, what other truths waited in the wings, ready to emerge when they truly began to dig into their past? The days that followed Daniel's recovery were a whirlwind of emotions for both him and Jack. The hospital had discharged Daniel, and now he found himself in Jack's modest apartment, feeling the gravity of the opportunity before them. The air was thick with unspoken words, memories that danced just out of reach, but they were determined to bring them to light. Lily had become an integral part of their healing process. Each evening, they gathered around Jack's small kitchen table, scattered notebooks and half-eaten pizzas strewn about, the remnants of their creative chaos. They turned their painful past into art, weaving stories filled with courage, heartache, and hope. Together, they transformed their shared struggles into characters that lived and breathed on the pages. One sunny afternoon, while Jack and Lily pored over their latest drafts, Daniel slipped into the living room, his expression contemplative. "Can we take a break from writing for a second?" he asked, hesitating on the threshold. Jack looked up, curiosity peaking. "Yeah, of course, Dan. What's on your mind?" Daniel took a deep breath, a small smile curling at the edge of his lips. "I've been thinking about our promise to each other, about listening." He shifted in his seat, hands gripping the table. "There's something I need to share something from before everything fell apart." The room fell silent. Jack's heart thudded. He sensed this was a pivotal moment, one that would either bind them closer or threaten to unravel the fragile threads of their renewed connection. "Go on," Jack urged, encouraging Daniel to open up. Daniel spoke slowly, carefully. "Remember when I spiraled out? It wasn't just one moment. It was 1,000 tiny moments where I felt invisible, unworthy. I thought pushing you away would prove I could handle my life. But I became lost in that fight." His voice wavered, raw and honest. Jack felt the weight of Daniel's confession filling the room. "I always thought you needed to be alone," he whispered. "But I wanted to be there for you." Daniel nodded, the truth hanging between them like an anchor. "The hardest thing was realizing that I didn't have to be alone, just like you said." Tears glistened in Jack's eyes. This was the moment, a breaking down of walls that had kept them strangers for far too long. "I would have waited forever for you to come back to me. You're more than just my brother. You're a part of my soul." In that shared vulnerability, Daniel took in his brother's words, a mixture of gratitude and sorrow reflected in his gaze. "I guess we need to forgive ourselves for those lost years," he said softly, the heaviness lifting with the release of his burdens. Across the table, Lily leaned in, her eyes bright with unshed tears. "You both have the chance to turn this pain into something beautiful. This is just the beginning." Together, they took a leap, opening up, digging deep into the unseen scars that had shaped them. The conversations flowed freely, each story unearthing laughter, heartache, and moments festooned with regret. Days morphed into weeks, and Jack, Daniel, and Lily became an inseparable trio. They hosted small gatherings with friends who had become more like family, filling Jack's apartment with warmth and laughter. Slowly but surely, the scars of the past healed, making way for the promise of a brighter future. One bright afternoon, as sunbeams filtered through the windows, they gathered again. Jack slid a freshly printed manuscript across the table, an anthology of their stories, filled with pages of resilience and hope. "This is our journey," he said, pride swelling in his chest, "a testament to everything we have faced and overcome." Lily beamed, her eyes sparkling. "Can we publish it?" Daniel, reading the title aloud, Finding Home, felt a sense of belonging settle within him. "Yes," he said with conviction. "We need to share this, to inspire others who feel lost in their own journeys." Anticipation buzzed in the air as they made plans to submit their manuscript. They understood that by sharing their story, they were not just reaching out to the world. They were embracing their history, acknowledging their weaknesses, and redefining their future together. That night, as they celebrated with pizza and laughter, Lily turned to them both, her expression serious but filled with warmth. You two were meant to come together again. Remember, this is your family now. As her words hung in the air, Jack and Daniel exchanged a knowing glance, a promise that now resided in their hearts. They were forever intertwined, their lives woven together in a tapestry of second chances. And in that moment, as they cherished each other anew, hope radiated through the room, echoing loudly that they were more than just brothers. They were partners on a journey of healing, love, and unbreakable bonds. This was their story, and it was only the beginning. Now, dear readers, if you've enjoyed this journey, I need you to do something vital. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories that will inspire and uplift you. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help spread this message of hope. Comment your reactions and feelings about this ending. What touched you most? And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Your support means the world.